to co-create a breakthrough for freedom of energy, sustenance, healing, and regeneration of the human vessel. Welcome to FESIG, the Free Energy Special Interest Group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise.
Hi everyone, welcome to FESIG's 83rd meeting. Today is the 2nd of December. We are just starting the 83rd meeting, and we have we have a big group here. It's great, isn't it? I mean, and then having seen Dave Parker's site as well, it is more or less on the same level of thinking, although we hadn't met each other yet. We just have the same ideas, and isn't that wonderful? So we are going to collaborate big time to bring free energy to the people, to free humanity. No, I'm not done yet. So do visit our website and then click on our Facebook to get the whatever announcements we've got for you, and go to our YouTube channel to get all the recordings of all the meetings we've had. And we've already to date have got 83 meetings, and each meeting has got 2 sessions. So today's agenda, we have the first session speaker, Dave Parker, on free energy cures for diseases, organic permaculture, and he will talk about the Photon Engine that he developed, the engine with no air intake, which means the engine can travel beneath the sea and outer space. Isn't that amazing? And other free energy technologies, and about the fossil fuel cartel and the way to do free energy business. And this is what we want to hear really over here in FESIG. And then the second session, we have, of course, we have a Q&A, and then we adjourn to the second session. We have Gene Decode talking about the Kraken supercomputer, part of the advanced technologies used by the military, the great election sting operation, the underground dumps, deep underground military bases, the rescued children, healing made beds, transportation, and free energy technologies as well. So it's jam-packed with information, folks. And then once we finish with this, the Q&A, then meeting will adjourn to the 84th FESIG meeting on the 6th of January 2020. We have Dr. Houdini, William Alec, presenting the link between free energy and anti-gravity and the connection with Tesla. Second speaker, to be determined. Right, so that if you want to contact me, go to crystal@truevisionofpeace.com. I mean, write to me, and we'll see what we can do together. So there you go. And now I'm going to introduce Dave. I have to introduce Dave properly because he is an inventor extraordinaire, and he has invented so many great things to make life a lot easier for us. Okay, so I'm going to pull up Gene's bio. No, not Gene, Dave. Dave Parker is the visionary and coordinator of the Free Energy Party. His website is thefreeenergyparty.com. And if you go to FESIG's website, you will see his name. When you hover your mouse over his name and you click on it, it goes straight into his website. Okay, Dave Parker is a he started and initiated the freeenergyparty.com or .org. It is a political party dedicated to the manifestation of free energy. And Dave went to junior college at Santa Rosa Junior College, took contract and business law at Harvard, mechanics and calculus-based physics at MIT, and engineering design at Purdue. He was a professional singer for years, a writer and an inventor extraordinaire. CEO of Farmers Fuel, for which he was on the front page of 3 papers making alcohol from farm byproducts with a large facility. He is currently now visiting concern in Florida to do independent lab documentation of the green machine and over unity hydrogen process documented by Vordic Labs in Fort Worth and cavitation reactor documented by Florida Atlantic University and the Photon Engine documented by multiple agencies. He built the first two, but had continued trouble with the inventors, so he built the Photon Engine. Dave is the inventor of the MegaPressure pump and diamond sapphire injection. This system gets high mileage and clean emissions in cars. He's also the inventor of a low temperature carbonization process that cleans up coal. He also invented the new swimming pool ozonization process that replaces chlorine. He had scored past the proverbial mark on government IQ testing and have many medical inventions as well, such as the iontophoretic dental tray, smileregeneration.com, and other energy, regenerative agriculture, and health and living system breakthroughs. So over to you, Dave Parker, the president of the Free Energy Party.
It's good to see you, and I'm glad that we got everything worked out so that it appears to be working. And I've heard nothing but good things about you, about the group, your group, and I'm very honored and pleased to touch base with you and share alike.
Thank you, Dave. So you will speak, Dave, for about 45 minutes to an hour uninterrupted.
You know, we're always facing a paradox in the free energy theater where we want to open source everything so that we can continue to push for world improvement, but we also want to stay alive. I'm personally dedicated to the idea after years of looking at matters and trying to face this problem, this catch-22. I'm believe in overground demonstrations and underground manufacturing and distribution. So let's say that the FDA wanted to come in and raid milk because it was raw. Well, the way that they win is by stealing all of your inventory. And they do that, and it is theft. They do that to put you out of business since they're directly working under the big pharma monopoly. And so when you see the FDA coming in and putting a little old lady on the floor with an automatic weapon, and because she's guilty of adding vitamins to dog food, then there's no question that it's an excess, but it's important to know that we need to trace it to its root, the evil to its root, and understand that the codex alimentarius, the attempt to take vitamins away, and all of this is a case of the regulating agencies working directly for the monopoly cartel of the big pharma. And the same rules apply for the invention process. And that's why the allegory, that's why the big metaphor. With the invention process, we're looking at the need to extend intellectual property status and extend the R&D status into the manufacturing and even the distribution arena. We don't want to say there's such a thing as monopolistic restraint of trade, but we're not capable of doing anything to protect ourselves legally. Well, yes, you can. If you want to sell power back up the grid, you certainly can do that thanks to the pioneering work of solar and wind. But the person picking up your power readings off of a meter, or where you bypass the meter, the person that's going to charge you for being hooked up, even to sell power back. If you were to go for like an reverse the grid campaign to make the people, the power producers, in a decentralized grid, rather than the monopolies, the power producers, in a centralized grid, that results in war over oil and environmental destruction. So if you want to maintain an R&D status and take your IP, your intellectual property, and extend it to where that you have, I mean, all the benefits and protections in IP law, to where that you have those protections in manufacturing, then the monopoly cannot come along and steal all of your inventory and shut you down, because they don't know where you're at. And that's why you could call it underground manufacturing, or you could call it proprietary manufacturing, where what you're doing is a trade secret. And this is only common sense to us, to extend these protections from being the invention process and filing and getting the IP, the patent number, the patent pending number, and these protections, and then suddenly have no protection from the monopolies, and no protection during manufacturing, and no protection no protection for the. I'm getting a note. Someone wrote a note that I need to talk louder, maybe, or get closer. So I'll do both. So you wind up with no protection from the monopolies, but we had protection, and then you write me back and tell me if you can hear me now. Now, we had protection during the intellectual property stage of the patenting, but we did not have any protection during the manufacturing and the distribution. So what we want to do is change the paradigm completely. The audio is fading in and out.
It's all right, Dave. It's all right. Carry on. We hear you fine.
We want to change the paradigm, okay? We want to make people the power producers and move the money from the 1% back to the 99%. But we want to change the paradigm when it comes to extending IP law protections, patent office protections, all the way over to manufacturing and distribution. And we want to change the definitions. We want to sell the golden eggs, not the goose that lays the golden eggs. Meaning the golden eggs, meaning the power. It would be like if we've got the ability to sell power, why do we have to risk a monopoly going to a judge and shutting us down with their bought and sold whore-like relationship? Not to discredit anyone who chooses to be a whore. I'm saying the political whores, though, we're going to throw them out of the White House. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you have a relationship with a judge, and right now everything is disproportionate in America. Here. So if you have a situation where they ask the judge, oh, Rick says I'm loud and clear. If you've got a relationship with a judge because you bought him out, then he gives an injunction which says you can't make your widget. So we don't want to sell the widget. We want to sell the power. And that means we don't want to sell the goose that lays them. We want to sell the golden eggs. And we want to slip this power sales ubiquitously into America and around the world, to where that it's fait accompli. It's already happened and it's already been done. We want to use the Photon Engine because it's the world's most powerful non-nuclear technology. It's second in power to nuclear, 14 times more powerful than gasoline. And we want to use this technology that has no emissions. And so we have an absolutely clean technology that has been suppressed since the early 1900s when Rockefeller and Chase Manhattan Bank and Standard Oil. What we want to do is we want to make it where it's impossible to put the toothpaste back in the tube. We want it to be impossible to put the cat, wild and screaming cat, back in the bag, which you let the cat out of. We want it to be fait accompli. Maybe in some areas overseas, different routes might cause the fading. Note to everybody. Okay.
I think we shouldn't interrupt Dave's presentation. Dave, you're doing your best. Yeah. I think if you could rig the wire connection a bit from your microphone, that would just make the connection better.
Garbage that is burned in an efficient ways, and then power made to sell up grid. So we want to come in smoothly and easily so that there's no, yes. I'm sorry, I was not supposed to respond, but somebody wrote something and I said yes. In any case, we want to enter the market somewhat in a proprietary manner. Why would we inform a monopoly who is going to suppress us what we're going to do next? Why would we want to do that? I make information open source with the Photon Engine. It's a little more complex than the average person can even grasp, but I explain everything in detail about it. Like if we wanted to power individual homes and we make smaller Photon engines, that's one thing, but you can take something like the halback array, which is develops like double the magnetism on one side, impersonating like the holy grail, the monopole magnet. You know, the halback is able to imitate that. And Launch Point Enterprises made a deal with DARPA that instead of having it on our homes, giving us freedom in a reverse the grid program, when even the Department of Homeland Security wrote a document saying that if we had decentralized power, that we would be more secure from worldwide attacks and domestic terrorism. So I think that, of course, the halback array is the highest horsepower versus weight relationship, torque versus weight relationship in the world. And so DARPA didn't want to have to land their drones. They wanted the drone to fly forever without any fuel. So the world is only going to get to see drones with free energy. I for one refuse to accept that scenario. And we will put those on homes. Even the Department of Homeland Security said that if we had a decentralized grid, that we would have a more secure nation, okay? And, but the Photon Engine, at this time, initially, we're looking toward distributing larger amounts of power because, well, when we say that it's 14 times more powerful than gasoline, I've taken a gasoline motor and closed the intake and completely closed off the exhaust, so there's no emissions of any sort into the air. And I'm happy to tell anybody how I've done that or how they can do that in an open source manner. But even the patent office, the patents are open source. They just may not be accurate because they don't want someone to come in and steal it. Now, anybody can make your patented device anyway, as long as they don't sell it. So the patent is there for everybody's edification, ostensibly. But as long as you don't sell it, then you're not in trouble for making one. So nothing stops anybody from making anything that's in the patent office that is real, or that we see in evidence or in independent lab documentation that it is real. So we need to understand when we say open source, what we really mean and what we don't mean. So the average guy that just wants a couple of magnets spinning around and have free energy is going to find that there's no torque, not an adequate amount of torque, or some other such problem. But if we look at the examples, such as the breakthrough documented examples, such as the halback array with the launch point halback, which was, I think, bought by DARPA, then we'll see that it's a good technology you could put on a home. Now, you can put the Photon Engine on a home, and you can share as a business model, which mixes socialism and capitalism. You can share an investor over here paying for the build of a Photon Engine, and the Photon Engine being put into a home, and the person in that home can get free electricity. And so the Free Energy Party would like to, that's part of the reverse the grid program. If we can have an investor using good, solid, good business, and that investor can invest in the build, the manufacturing of a Photon Engine, and then the person in that home gets free energy. So one's a good capitalist model where someone had to pay for it. People say, well, you're just as bad as JP Morgan if you're not giving it away for free. No, who the hell's got the money to give everything away for free to everybody in the world unless they're the government, okay? And so I'm just telling you that even Tesla was left you with the obligation to buy the receiver. Somehow you had to pay for making the receiver, even if he set up free energy through the air. You still had to pay for some things. So if we have an investor who's buying a business model and he gets to keep 50% of the power produced, then we have a good business model. And we can show that how quick that'll pay itself off. Now, on the other hand, the person that wants the free energy can have it if they are signing on a paper that they're the steward or the manager of that location where you're generating that energy. You could say that they're trading their services of being a secured location where we can install that unit. And now it satisfies the socialists because we're saying you're going to have free energy there in your house. I know it bothers some people to say free. It doesn't bother us to say free. The sunshine is free. The wind is free. The waves are free. You could say they're not, but I'd like to see how you look after laying around for millions and millions of years waiting for the waves to stop moving. You know, from practical standpoint, well, it's not free. The earth is only going to last the heat death of the universe. No, there's no such thing. That's a monopoly lie. Okay, there is such a thing as infinity, and nothing is lost. It's only changed. So energy is neither created nor destroyed. It only changes form. And so you're going to continue to have wind power and geothermal. Oh, everybody, they act like there's no free or it's hard to get to. They've shown now that you're just using a rope or a cable of graphene that you can transmit heat from down in the earth up to the surface without any loss of energy. So I'm trying to tell you there's free energy, and there's free oxygen unless we let them destroy it. And there's free water, which goes nowhere but round and round, unless we let them destroy all of the potable water, or however you say it. And so if we destroy all of the drinkable water and don't have the technology to distill water or to filter water through a cheap carbon filter, and there's more people dying from pathogens, from poison water around the world than through all the wars collected. So, you know, what's wrong with the capitalist who's bothered by the word free? We don't know. Free pizza, that's okay. Nobody minds the word free pizza. Free beer is great. People like that. People, if we say join us at the park, we've got free beer. Well, everybody will love that. They'll love that. But if we say free source energy from a free source, oh no, it'll destroy the economy if we don't carpet bomb women and children and make the bomb makers rich. Morton Thiokol, General Dynamics, you know, all of these, Lockheed Martin. If we don't make them rich, it'll destroy the economy. Well, excuse me, it did not destroy the economy. We went from any other technologies around us to world improvement technologies. World improvement technologies don't destroy the economy. The destroyer is the monopoly of death and scarcity. We bring abundance. You know, if you have a business, it's not even a good business model for your employee to be sick, unable to get health care, starving, hungry, unable to get food, broke, where he can't go get some gasoline so that they can show up the next day to work again. And so there's nothing wrong with a paradigm of abundance instead of a paradigm of scarcity. But the petro arms monopoly would rather you have a paradigm of scarcity where they're like burn the village and rule the ruins, because they are a little bit mentally challenged thugs. And so power is more important than common sense or conscience to a thug. But anyway, if you want to ask me questions, I kind of thought that would have been the format, but I'm happy to keep asking my own self questions. That's okay. That way nobody has to change all their settings or however. But how does the photon engine work? And second, okay, you take a second question. That's two at once. Where did the technology come from? How has it been suppressed? Where has it been? What's the history of the phenomena? And how did you make it work? What's so special about you that you made it work? Or about your approach that you made it work? Okay, so the photon engine represents the cover-up of non-nuclear chain reactions. Non-nuclear chain reactions, it's different than low energy nuclear reactions, as a different LE&R, as a different method that we're not discussing right now. I was talking to somebody about LE&R and they said, alien art. I said, not alien art, LENR. They said, alien art. Well, I'd love to look at alien art if you've got any. No, LENR, that's a different topic. A non-nuclear chain reaction that we're talking about now that has the closest similarity to photosynthesis. because it is a photosynthesis, but not of carbohydrate. It's the photosynthesis of industrial chemicals that can make anything, but not of making your food. Carbohydrate being anything that turns into sugar, and the blood wanting blood sugar. What our food would be. The photochemical process has been well known, but it's been covered up that there are a few different chemicals, not just the one that I'm using primarily, but there are some more that are part of a cover-up, and that have a chain reaction that results, if you're looking at quantum efficiency as a terminology used commonly in photochemistry, quantum efficiency of over 1,000,000 times over unity. And the way that that's possible is that Einstein, he came forward and he said, well, I only said that one in and one out using photons or one quanta, using one Einstein as a light going into the mixture of these two gases. The principle of one in and one out only applies to the first reaction. The fact is that a chain reaction does not apply. Einstein admitted that. Actually, they discovered the process around 1871 or so. Max Bodenstein was into the development. He followed some others before him, like Bunsen, who the Bunsen burner was named after, that did work with this in the 1800s. So a lot more happened in the 1800s than you're familiar with or aware of, most likely, because we see it as some prehistoric time. But chemistry was pretty advanced in lots of ways in the 1870s. And Bodenstein, he lived up into the 1900s. And Bodenstein helped to teach. Actually, I was very lucky to get this book in the mail, and it's probably written backwards, looks backwards there to you or something like that. But this is by George Kistiakowsky. George Kistiakowsky studied directly under Bodenstein. And as he studied directly under Bodenstein, George Kistiakowsky was, I started to go into his background for a little bit, but let's get to the point, our big points. He was the science advisor for, what's the guy's name that told us we were going to have Eisenhower? He was a science advisor for Eisenhower. And he was in charge of finding the explosions that would help set off the atom bomb at the Manhattan Project. And he was the science advisor for Eisenhower. Okay. So he was at the top of his game and doing really well. And he traveled all the way from across the country, and he met with Robert Scragg and with one of the scientists were there and witnessed it. And they were told at that time, 40 years ago, he said, we saw this suppressed with the Rockefeller monopoly of the oil. And that's when Big Pharma got its start with allopathic medicines at the same time by Rockefeller as he became the monopolist of oil. And this means, George Kistiakowsky said, that he took over chemistry. that chemistry began to be based less about chemicals that you could get out of nature and that you found naturally, and more about everything needing to come from oil. Even the medicines right now, 98% of all the medicines come from oil. And actually in China, they make another 98% figure. They make 98% of our drugs out of oil that we give them to make it out of for pennies on the dollar. We take that drugs made out of oil, and then we sell it for like a fortune. We got just a small amount of money into it, and then we just sell it for a fortune. And it's so expensive that poor people can't even afford medicine. Okay, but so the first time that the photon reaction was suppressed was to not interfere with the Rockefeller Chase Manhattan Bank Standard Oil monopoly that was sued in the courts for, they were found guilty of monopoly, but then it was a rigged game and they were divided into many little pieces, and they were all, it's like a fan. You know, you can take 100 CFM, cubic foot per minute fan, or you can take 10 cubic foot per minute fans, and you still have the same result. And so Standard Oil was broken up only to be renamed, and the same people controlled it, just under all of these names, Mobil, and all of these names, Chevron, and all of these names. And so this had to be suppressed because there's more out than in. It's a free energy technology. Whereas normally you'd be very lucky to get 100% efficient on anything anything. But instead, what you're getting is a million times over. Not just 100% or one. It can be called 1 or 100%, but you can get up to a million times over because it's a chain reaction. And so the second time that it was suppressed was the Manhattan Project, where they were making the atom bomb. And in the Manhattan Project, where they were making the atom bomb, now they did not want this technology, although George Kitzkowski demonstrated it to them. They did not want anything undermining the nuclear monopoly. So now the nuclear monopoly, they were new kids on the block, and they were thinking that they would take over all the oil and everything at that time. So big oil suppressed it, and then big nuclear suppressed it. So what we have here is 40 years ago, George Kiszkowski traveled and met with Robert Scragg, the first patent holder surrounding the photon engine. But he didn't have answers which I created to make it usable technology. George Kiszkowski said, it's time to bring this technology forward. Before I'm dead, I would like to see this technology brought forward. And Robert Scragg, who had about 2 or 3 patents filed, successful patents filed at that time, Robert Scragg said, you know, we're happy to do it, but he didn't know how to do it. When the truth was, and then in 1992, the doctor that's working with me, that was a witness to everything back then, documented things back then, he was part of the team, and they made a rocket motor for a graduate student who was going to go to work for NASA after he did his final paper there. And he did his final paper on a reaction of the hydrogen and gas and chlorine gas fired photochemically with certain nanometer wavelengths. The short ones are best because they're more energetic around the violet area to the UV area. And so I have a copy of that paper that he did, a small book. And so they didn't know what they were doing. They showed the power of this. They had H.P. White Laboratory documented that it was 14 times more powerful than gasoline, and that it was second in power to nuclear, and that it gave off no radiation of any sort or form or kind. And they do the work for the military, for DARPA, for all these people, for NASA. They do testing, not just ballistics work for the military, but testing, power testing, H.P. White Laboratory. So they confirmed all of this, but that wasn't enough. They were just blowing the emissions into the air. And when I asked them why, they said, well, the ISP is so great on this reaction that we can get to Mars faster than any other technology on Earth can get people to Mars. And it's not going to hurt anything to blow this out into outer space. What's that going to hurt? And I said, well, what about when you're going up to get into outer space and when you're coming down and all that, when you're going up and down? And he said, oh, it's going to blow into the air and then it's going to fall down and be neutralized with all of the dolomite and all of the, well, Florida is just, it's one big sandbar. It's one big sandbar. They're saying that the pollution would be neutralized by the alkaline soil, and you would have, well, we don't want any acidic emissions. We find that emissions repugnant. We find that everything causing acid rain repugnant. The coal cover-up keeps you from knowing that Lewis Carrick showed that 1 barrel of oil comes out and 3,000 cubic foot of natural gas comes out of every short ton or every 2,000 pounds ish of coal. And instead they blow it in the air and you've got sulfur in the air, which turns to sulfuric acid, comes back down sulfuric acid. And all the swimming pools and the water supplies with chlorine in them, that goes up, the light oxides go up into the atmosphere and join with moisture and become hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid rains come down on you. So then you've got nitric acid formed when the petrochemical monopoly is making the nitric fertilizers, nitrogen fertilizers. They're making it out of oil, out of like usually Middle Eastern obtained oil, where it's like threatening war over oil and genociding, carpet bombing and droning women and children to try to take over the oil. And that's happening right now. It's an ongoing thing. And the American mind just becomes in a big lull, like numbed and callous. You know, it's the third time if they invade Iran. It's the third time. The first time the English invaded Iran, every quart of oil and gallon of gas in England came from Iran from the 20s to the 40s. In 1953, suddenly all the oil and gas in America was coming from Iran, where our CIA had taken over, gotten rid of Mossadegh, and all of this. Anyway, I've given a warning here to wrap it up a little bit. So anyway, we don't want that model anymore. And the nitric acid that the farmers put down they put down 12 times more than the soil can absorb. And it creates dead spots out in the Gulf of Mexico, because it blocks the production of oxygen. And so we're drowning in pollution. So I patented answers where we don't have any emissions going out of the photon engine. We're not justifying acid that will be neutralized by the dirt, which is alkaline, or anything like that. We have no emissions, and I'm happy to tell you how it all works. But I'm told by the note, and I'm very respectful of your show, so I should bring it out that I guess time is up.
Dave, yes, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and all those important things that you had brought up. Share with us. Hang on a minute. Let me just. There are things that because your microphone is on and off, on and off. I guess we can make another appointment for another session for you to speak, perhaps.
Webcam.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fraz, are you ready to take over the microphone as co-chair? Yeah, over to you for the Q&A. Just a few questions only, please, because Gene is a busy man and he can't wait too long. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Anyway, from what I'm hearing from you, Dave, is that instead of emitting the chlorine and the hydrogen out of the systems, that we actually go to a recycling system. We see these recycling systems all the time in industry, and it has to do with refrigeration and especially with chlorine. So chlorine is a very good molecule to work with as one application explaining what you're doing. So you have an explosion side where you're expanding the activity of the chlorine gas on one side of refrigeration, and then it basically is compressed and it gives up that energy. And so it's an exchange back and forth. So the chlorine remains the same, but the temperature moves from one side to the other. And from what I'm understanding, what you're saying with your invention that you're working with is similar to that line, but instead of using compression and that type of stuff mechanically, you're using photons. Is that what you're doing? Is that the direction?
You're Fraz?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. That's good. That's a good summary.
Okay.
If I were to perfect any of the details there, I can break it down, and it's a little bit different than that, but I think that that's a great diagram for people to understand that we've got a kinetic reaction that'll do work, whereas the refrigerator can't. So
yes,
it requires work. So in our case, though, we're tapping into energy, and it's operating the compressor, hypothetically, of the refrigerator.
Our group is very familiar with your halback array, magnet array explanation. That's our team understands that quite well. And that's where you set up an imbalance between the north and the south poles. You end up with either two norths and one south, or two norths and one north and two souths. And the electromagnetic field that is formed has to decide between one or the other, and it oscillates back and forth. So you've got a continuous oscillation in your electromagnetic field with the halback array. That is basically your signal generator on a lot of these energy devices that folks are working with. What's interesting is I'm hearing a different idea of how to create energy with your photon.
We have to understand that when they say it's the highest torque per weight ratio of any motor in the world, that's impressive talk. So it's just impressive talk. But the photon engine is a power delivery system.
Okay.
Yeah, whereas, and we have acknowledgments from leading scientists down through history that lead to right now, right here. About it. It's just that the scientists can't believe that we made it look so simple to be able to go in there and solve the problems instead of having, we got rid of an intake on a motor, and everyone said you can't do that. Everybody, they just are determined you can't do that. You can't do that. And for what we're doing, we've got a closed cycle. You can do it. And so it has power. And we're after that power, and we can run the world with it with no emissions.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I think Pontus had a question real quick.
Yeah. In what time frame can we have your energy device in our homes, Dave?
Well, if it's a lot of it, rather than the world of idealism, is the world of who pays for what. Because, you know, it's like if Pontus said, I've got a great idea, my testing showed it's true, and they say, well, when it's for sale at the Home Depot, call me. Well, you need a little bit of help with that invention before the Home Depot. It's before, you know, you don't need their help now. Now you don't need the investor's help. So you want an investor to be able to make money. And so if someone wishes to like contact me on Facebook, I can tell them what plans that we put into place and keep the manufacturing underground, and tell them how they can get involved personally and with the project. I said Facebook because it's so easy to use. Right now we know it's bought out and computers are reading it and everything you say, but we're kind of hiding our tree in the forest, you know, and it's like hiding a little note on a bulletin board full of notes. It's, you know, we're kind of hiding in plain sight. But when it comes down, are we going to be selling the photon engines? No, you could lease one, but we just see the problem of being sued and being stopped if you sell it. If you try to sell it, if you try to sell the goose that lays the golden eggs, you might not get any golden eggs. So, but if people contact me, Facebook is easy because it's easy to find me. And, you know, it's easy to find me. And at that point, if there's something confidential, we switch right over to WhatsApp. You know, I can share a lot of information already done. Just like we could share it on this program. You know, like what they call memes for scientists like us winds up being more than a meme. It's more than just a postcard or a placard. It's links to proofs with actual URL links and things like this, and information. You can write on one, you know, you can write information and you can put links. And so it winds up being a great way to build albums of information. And then you need to back it up somehow so that Facebook doesn't come along and just wipe it all out.
Dave, let's back up a little bit on the on the open sourcing side of things. You were mentioning that open sourcing is all well and good, but who's going to be footing out the bills and the money to pay the bills and all that, right? You did say that. And you said open source. Open sourcing is good if people would just, you know, build it with a blueprint that's open source and use it for themselves domestically without selling it. Then that's fine. You did say that, right? But certain algorithms are hidden and it's not given 100% out in the open sourcing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you say that, Dave?
You're right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right.
You have some ideas.
Yes,
well.
Yes, we do. Our group here in FESIG, we have some ideas, and we have basically touched base with you there on the same platform of open sourcing. Yeah, so long as people don't go and sell what we open source, they are fine, they're safe. Yeah, and we believe that when we open source after we have already set out the structure, and we are okay, and we are okay financially, whatever, everything's covered, then we open source. And when we open source to all, like, it's like people don't have to pay money to buy it. They can, if they are interested enough and clever enough to grasp the technology and learn from the blueprint through the open sourcing to build it themselves, just to help themselves by powering up their own homes. We have fulfilled our mission, don't you think? So it goes to the outbacks, to the furthest frontiers of the planet where there's no electricity. You know, we can send teams there to teach people there. We can have classrooms.
And if I may, since you mentioned the outback, I want to say we convert those generators, those actual generators. But you can, we would like people to still have an extra generator, that in case one system failed, you put the other one back on. But I didn't want to interrupt you, so I'm just trying to make a point that if you've got an offer to people, the sky's the limit. If you offered the people in the outback what we offered them was 50% off of what they're currently paying. That leaves a very large budget.
I hear you. I heard what you said. Yeah, 50%. It works if the investor pays and gets 50% of the generated power, then it works. You did say that. Yeah, I've been taking notes. Yeah. You know, we ought to have many forums like this. It's so good that we could explore possibilities of how to do this thing fairly for all concerned. And when it comes to open sourcing, and we want to fulfill our mission here at FESIG, that we want to open source, and that's one surefire way of saving lives as well. Well, all being equal. Oh, I mean, if the fossil fuel cartel is still at large, then and we are not allowed to do this and that, then I suppose open sourcing is the best way out for everyone, especially the inventors.
We have to see an aggressive, like someone who we have loose connections, but still we have connections, Robert F. Kennedy. And we have to see intelligent lawyers get involved with some of the more aggressive, and we know the trouble he's had with his life, his family all killed. But it's illegal to bribe a police officer. It's illegal to bribe a judge, hypothetically speaking. But it's okay to bribe a politician. So we need some very aggressive, RICO Act lawsuits for racketeering and collusion to make it a dead arrest and jailing if someone is going to be in that revolving door. Like if you have Obama campaigning saying, I'm going to stop GMOs, and then he appoints Michael Taylor, the vice president of Monsanto, to be in charge of the FDA. And of course, the Trump administration did the same thing. Every administration going back, if you make a pie of all of their appointments, if you were judging them by their appointments, by their cabinet appointments, then all of them 100% failure. Mm-hmm. And to make that illegal, because it is illegal already, to enforce the illegality of it is what is needed. And so when we have a RICO Act lawsuit, and RICO Act has teeth, you can go after someone's belongings, their properties, because it's an organized crime structured lawsuit, you know. And so the RICO Act is, you say, well, clearly there's racketeering and collusion. This guy was the head lobbyist for the arms companies, and now he's in charge of war over oil for the government. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we have. Mm-hmm. The one guy that just quit, he was the poster boy, is the poster child for like the head lobbyist for all of the, you know, Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. He was the head, he was favorite lobbyist of all these people, and he gets to be like in charge of something connected therein, like war over. So what do we do about that? Well, we have to file lawsuits and name some names. We have to go after the people involved and say, you cannot be exempted because you're the person that's immediately involved in this racketeering and collusion. We've got to start enforcing laws instead of ignoring laws that have to do with monopoly, destroying world improvement technology, and saying a lie like it's, oh, it's jobs. No.
Dave, we really applaud you. We really, really admire what you're doing, because we need someone like you and your Free Energy Party to lobby and forge forth through the frontiers there with these people and pave the way through aggressively for us politically. So this is what we need, and we are collaborating certainly, and we want to do well together. I think together we are quite a force to be reckoned with. I mean, I'm not just saying just your Free Energy Party and FESIG here. I'm calling out to Global BAM and to the other free energy communities and groups all over the world. We should unite and collaborate and not reinvent the wheel and fight this through until we achieve the point where we can really bring free energy to the people and free humanity. And I really, on behalf of FESIG, Fraz and Pontus and I, we really thank you for coming forth here to speak here. And we are learning from you the way you are taking free energy through to politically. And thank you so much, Dave. And we want you to come back to speak again, because there's so many things that you can share with us as an inventor as well. And we have questions here. Trisha's asking about your dental regeneration protocol with your invention. We are very interested now about that as well. So we will fix another session for you to speak, because we have our second session speaker, Gene, who's waiting on the sideline for so long. So Fraz, is there anything else you want? Any urgent question? Last one?
I would like to say thank you to Dave and both to you, Crystal, because your last two remarks, both of you, are really good places to stop with this conversation, because it goes right straight to the point of what we're all working for. So thank you, Dave, and thank you, Crystal, because this is a great wrap up of what you just, of the whole meeting today.
Oh, thank you, Fraz. You are amazing yourself, you and Pontus. Having this R&D department that you set up, we are moving forward and we have great hopes that we will be able to fulfill our mission soon enough. And the timing is perfect. I mean, look at what Trump's doing, POTUS, and the draining the swamp thingy. I shall say no more. I think it's perfect timing for all of us, Dave. All right, then, there being no other business. Pontus, is there anything you want to say? One last word?
No, I'm done.
Pontus is the head of R&D, and Dr. Fraz Frazzle is the chairman of the R&D of FESIG. Okay, and thank you very much, everyone, for taking time off to attend this meeting. There were nearly 40 of us at some point. People come in and go, and then we have the second session coming up. So there being no other business, now this first session of the 83rd FESIG meeting is now adjourned to the second session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dave. You are excellent. We love to have you back soon. Thank you.
Could I ask a question of Dave?
Yes, Gene. Oh, Gene is our next speaker.
Thank you. Because of his brilliance and his obvious know-how on how to do things, I was wondering if he's aware of the energy that they've measured in the Kashmir experiments and the Kashmir effect at the Planck distance, which is essentially 10 to the 95th grams per centimeter squared, which is equal to the entire amount of energy of the entire universe, because the universe is holographic and also is well, just say holographic. And so it's also based on a quantum field where everything is at the miniature level of actually below the Planck distance is representing all of the mass scale. So it's at a, I'm not getting the word right now, but it's like a holographic universe. And so I was wondering if he's aware of the Kashmir effect, and also it's now been put into an operational system, which was patented by Salvatore Pais as a free operational patent. So there's blueprints on a working device using the Kashmir effect or the 0-point energy at the Planck distance.
If we have you back to answer Gene's question, then we'll close.
Okay.
Dave?
I want to say that I've always been interested in the Kashmir effect, and I would like any information that you've got, hook you up with my electronic engineer, who's a free energy whiz in that type of field, that type of areas. And at the same time, I don't want to bypass the R&D researchers on this group. So what we could do is put together a wonderfully fun email that has everybody that wants to read the chat and talk about the Kashmir effect. I think that on the flip side, if I've got just a few seconds to say it, that what disturbs me is that we don't succeed as gentlemen and ladies, that we don't succeed in showing an adequate transitional technology. And we've got in the Free Energy Party ways to try to transition from the old paradigm to the new paradigm. And we don't see an adequate examples of both wave power and because people can say, well, the wind, what if the wind stops blowing? What if the sun stops shining because of the clouds or whatever? And so we don't see enough examples of geothermal and how it could power the whole world when the oil companies are often drilling right through the heat so that they can take the oil up and then turn it into heat. And so we would like to make it clear to the public. We had two candidates for American politics, Trump and Biden, standing on the stage, both of them defending fracking. Out of all of the free energy options we've got, our leaders are able to get it past the public. The public could like say, yeah, well, we don't want to lose those jobs. We have to show there's more jobs in free energy. We have to show, which there is, and I can show you the stats, proof of that. We have to show there's more prosperity and there's more of a future in free energy. And we have to show how that people like oil drillers, they can use their same equipment and go after heat instead of after oil. And we have to be able to show these working models. Like, here's how many of this technology of wave generators, it will take 203 of those to power America, or something solid, something solid. Otherwise, we kind of fail ourselves. And that doesn't mean we should not explore phenomena like the Kashmir effect and any other. There's got to be tons of phenomena that we're ignoring and that we're unaware of and that we never heard about. Just like the Photon Engine, until someone learns about it, they don't know.
Yes, that patent on the Kashmir effect using that, which is what is used in the TR3B that was developed in 1947, is underneath in the US Patent Office, underneath Salvatore Pais. It's a free operational patent, meaning that the blueprints are reflecting an operational device. Free meaning that there are no gratuities it required for anybody to develop it, to the founder of the patents.
I've seen it.
Amazing. Yeah. Right. So shall we then, Dave, are we done here now? Shall we move on to Gene's session, the second session? I'm sorry, I don't mean to rush anyone here. Gene, that wasn't the question, right? You just making a statement. So I am just keen to, we don't want to lose your audience because a lot of people here now are waiting for you to speak as well, Gene. And
Ready
yeah.
whenever.
Yeah. So I thank you so much, Dave. Namaste. Thank you for doing this work, lobbying a way through for us politically. This is so amazing. You're so brave. Right. Thank you, everyone. Namaste. There being no other business, this first session is now adjourned to the second session of our FESIG 83rd meeting, 2nd of December. Thank you. I've stopped recording now.